previous take, I started eating my tongue or something and so I had to restart. So this is the level that I did geometry for, and you know, in one of my previous videos I said that mission 2 was all me, and I realized after I kind of was going to go through the script here, I didn't write the script for this. So I'll show you this scripting for it. I've actually been able to get the game, so extracted all the content, and you can see here if I say let's see. So this is the script for that, and you can see up here, scripting details credited to Z. And we always would, or some of us would put this header up here so we can know what's what just by looking at the script. Nowadays we might, instead of doing that, we would just look at source control revision history and find like who started it, you know. But maybe handy to see who did the geometry if you need to go to them and ask them for adjustments or whatever. But this is a Medal of Honor script, and I'll get into that a little bit more in the future when I talk about my own scripts. But you can see Ziad has a really good kind of organization, I'd say. And you'll find out a little bit more about my own stuff, which is even younger than my G-Pride stuff from Modern Warfare. So this is a mission that I did all the geometry for, and the terrain here is not the terrain system that we developed for Medal of Honor, and I was a little bit of a rebel in the situation, but I was kind of starting to do more curve work over here. The terrain system wasn't able to do, which is to like bend the texture around a corner, and it was just creating you also had this lighting inconsistency that was starting to happen, and I was fighting against it, but it just, that's how it was. But also the terrain system for me was the system was really showing here, like with this steep light angle, you could really see the level of detail happening, and I wasn't liking it at all. In a later mission I would use terrain more because I really wanted to honor the system. We put a lot of work into it, and I think it showed better in that mission in Spearhead. So all this is curve patches. Now in Quake 3, if this was curve patches in Quake 3, you would see these much more rounded, and that's because we added an ability on the curves to make them less curvy. You can lower the detail, and so it would make it so that you have to be really far away for this level to snap down. So you can see all my wonderful patchwork. I mean, it doesn't really hold up to today's standard, but yeah. The thing that really stands out in my memory about this level is just visibility. Quake 3 was not set up to draw this kind of environment. It's more like room to room, and you know, you'd have open spaces, but then they would go back into being room to room. And this is kind of like sprawling out with sorry, something happened here. Oh, so just sort of sprawling out with lots of detail, with all these triangles and details there and models and things like that. Are not work by default in Quake. This sort of thing just doesn't work, and we have like hint brushes where you could sort of guide the binary space partition. You can sort of guide it to guide it and encourage it to do what you want to, but it's still limited, and it wasn't quite doing what I wanted to in here, which is what you see there. See that space back there? It was showing, so from here. And so I came to the engineer with this problem, and we had some back and forth, and I remember us ultimately deciding to do something really crazy, which is create a system that allowed us to manually specify visibility. And so what that did was, like, we could create a block here and then create a block over there, and then have it so that while you're in this block, that stuff's not visibility. And I know you're probably thinking that's pretty insane for us to have to create these volumes all over to make that other side not draw. But that's the sort of thing that I did as a young designer and was willing to do. So I played with that system, and I was kind of like walking up to these corners and going, well, okay, I'm gonna draw a box here, and then, well, as I get close to this wall, I want to have all that stuff call out. So I would draw this like box, and then cut it like this, and then select that wedge shape, and do that, and I got it working really well. So you walk around this corner, and everything down there was like disappearing. So, but that would quickly devolve as I went to the next building and drew another diagonal thing, and so this sort of like, I was going to have to make some compromise on what I expected out of this system, and what I ended up doing was just drawing a grid, right? So a grid of spaces, and that way I could create a general visibility. And I didn't capture all of these, but it was okay, and it got me to the performance to where I wanted it to go. And the engineer that was working with me on this, he's like, you're creating a binary octree or something like that, he called it. And I was like, okay, yeah, smarty engineer. But basically I was coming up with, systems that was like what I would say modern visibility schemes are, which for these open spaces, which is they kind of like break the space down into blocks, smaller blocks, and then the geometry that can be calculated on a bigger level, and then try to explain it, but it doesn't work the same as it did back in Quake for visibility, and sometimes you just throw it at the hardware solution, and it figures some of this stuff out for you. So, but it was a different time, and so I was going in here, selecting each block, and going over there and selecting all of those blocks, and having those hidden from this direction. So as you're walking through, sometimes you probably find some spaces where I missed it. No, that's pretty thorough here. Like right there. Like I could have had it not draw that space back there, but that was just how it worked. Really cool, super behind the scenes stuff that you probably don't ever appreciate as a player. You just play the game. Another thing I remember doing in this level is I was exploring modeling, and I really was kind of getting like this curve patch. It was looking the same to me everywhere, and the rocks just don't go straight up. And with this one, I kind of like try to have it come out a little bit. And at one point, I pressed delete on this one and used our model level of detail, which was similar to the terrain. It was a continuous level of detail. We don't have it like it was our special system that we added on top of FAC2, so that we didn't have to manage the level of detail on the characters. We just do the high detail, and as you walk away, the triangles would reduce. And I tried to do a similar thing with this cliff face over here, and for a little bit I was playing with Maya models to do the cliff sides, and it was kind of the same thing as the terrain system. You could totally see it, and those triangles were so big that it showed itself. You could see the whole cliff kind of morph, and I didn't like it, so I was like, this is better. The lesser of evils, right? So I don't want to bore you with too many things. One commentary note on this is I look back at this like, I wonder, like, we didn't even try to tell the story of how the whole base would settle down after there was a bunch of gunfire outside. I think it would be on lockdown before you would even get inside to do the disguise mission, but you know, we just kind of like swept that under the rug, and as soon as you get inside, you're safe. Nobody in here heard all that action outside. But I forgot there was an inside here. I thought it ended the mission. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. I appreciate all the engagement on these things. It really helps make this thing go bigger. Thanks. Bye. I'm trying to quit. Press the stop button, guy.